Hi guys, yasas que kalosirtate to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're making lemonopita. Lemonopita in Greek, all it translates to is lemon pie. Although this is not a pie, this is actually a cake, and it is a beautiful cake to look at. It's moist, juicy, delicious, lemon flavored, bright. I mean, I know it's autumn, and usually this time of the year, everybody goes for those warm flavors, and I'm one of those people. I love those, but this cake is delicious. It's a nice alternative if you want to make something a little bit different for the holidays. I first had this cake at Cafe Enazma, which is a beautiful cafe that overlooks a lake in Chania, Crete. It's Limnia Yas, that's the name of it in Greek. If you're ever in the area, you should go visit them because not only is the place beautiful, the views are spectacular, but their desserts are delicious. They're some of the best that I've had this summer on my vacation there, and this was definitely one of my favorites. It was up there, and when I shared it on my Instagram stories, I've got so many messages, hundreds of them. So as soon as I came home, I got to work and I got the recipe right, and now I'm here sharing it with you. Let's get started. So this cake has 3 layers. It has the lemon cake, which is like a sponge cake that's soaked in a lemon syrup. Then it has the vanilla custard on top, and then it's topped with a lemon flavored whipped cream. We're gonna start by making the custard, which is basically my pastry cream recipe. I've used it so many times. You can do this up to 2 days ahead of time if you want to really be prepared. If you're making this for a party and you don't want to do this all last minute, it just takes a few minutes to put together. In a saucepan, you're gonna add 4 cups of whole milk and a half a cup of cornstarch. So the half a cup is about 80 grams or so. Then you're gonna get 1.5 cups of sugar ready, put 1 cup in the milk and cornstarch mixture, and leave the half cup for the egg mixture that we're gonna whip up in a few minutes. Also add a pinch of salt to the milk mixture. Give it a nice whisk and continue to whisk it until it gets piping hot. Then take it off of the heat. In another bowl, you wanna combine 8 eggs, the remaining half cup of sugar, and a half a cup of heavy whipping cream. And you're just gonna whisk that all together until it's nice and smooth. Then you're gonna take that piping hot warm milk and you're gonna carefully stir it into the egg mixture, mixing it and whisking it all together. This is gonna help those eggs come to temperature so that way they don't curdle once you add them to the milk. Then go ahead and add the egg mixture back in the saucepan. Put it over the heat, over medium heat, and stand there and cook it until it thickens. As soon as it starts to boil, it is gonna start to thicken pretty quickly, and then you're just gonna continue whisking it, take it off of the heat, and stir in about 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. Transfer it to a bowl. I like to pass it through a strainer just to catch any overcooked bits of eggs. If there are any parts that stuck to the bottom of the pan, you just want to get those out of your pudding. Cover it with a little piece of plastic wrap to prevent a skin from forming. Set it aside. It is a good idea once it comes to room temperature to chill it if you're using it that same day. But once it comes to room temperature, you can store it away in the refrigerator until you're ready to use it. And like I said, you can do this step up to 2 days ahead of time. Now it's time to make the lemon flavored syrup. In a saucepan, you want to add 3 cups of granulated sugar. That is 620 grams. Look at how fancy I'm getting with the measurements. You guys asked for it, so I try my best. Then you're gonna go ahead and add 2.5 cups of water. That is 500 milliliters. Add the peel of a lemon in there. You could do the zest of a lemon if you'd like. I like to peel it with a potato peeler or something like that. And put that in there, and also squeeze in the juice of half a lemon. That's about 1/4 cup. Mix everything all together and bring it to a boil. Once it boils and the sugar is dissolved, you can take it off of the heat and let the syrup cool completely. Anytime we're making a syrupy dessert, you want the syrup to be cool and the cake to be hot or the pastry to be hot. That allows for it to absorb very easily without getting a weird mushy consistency. So now it's time to make the cake, and I like to use my tabletop mixer fitted with the whisk attachment. I'm gonna add 4 whole eggs that are at room temperature. You want them to be at room temperature. That's gonna help them whip up nice and quickly. Then I'm gonna add 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. That's 175 grams. I'm also gonna add a little pinch of salt, about 1/4 teaspoon. Whisk this over high speed until they're really nice and fluffy. That's gonna take up to 5 minutes. All right, so once the eggs are nice and fluffy, we're gonna add some olive oil. I like to use a lighter olive oil for this, not the cold pressed extra virgin olive oil for this because that's a little too heavy. If you prefer, you can use a vegetable oil that doesn't have any flavor. And we're going to add half a cup of olive oil. That's 130 milliliters. And 1 cup, which is 250 milliliters of milk that's at room temperature or slightly warm. And we're just going to whisk that all together. And I'm also going to add 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. So in my mixing bowl over here, I have 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. That is 350 grams, and I have 2 tablespoons of baking powder. I'm also going to zest this lemon in here because a lot of the flavor comes from the zest. You would think it comes from the juice, but the essential oils that are in the zest are what gives this cake so much flavor. So you want to get as much of that in there as your heart desires. Now, if you want to do just half of a lemon, that's fine, because also keep in mind that the syrup is going to be lemony. But I love the flavor of lemon, and I love this, so I'm just going to add as much of this as I can. And when you're zesting a lemon, try to avoid the white part. Just get that shiny exterior off. And I'm just going to whisk the dry ingredients together. And we're going to need about 1/4 cup of lemon juice for this, so I'm just going to squeeze the juice out of half of this lemon. That should be good enough. Maybe a tiny bit more. I'm going to add the lemon juice in here, and I'm also going to add the flour in a few batches. And whisk it all together on low speed until it's combined. And then I'm just going to grease my baking pan. I have a 9 by 13 inch baking pan with a little bit of olive oil. You can use cooking spray or baking spray if you prefer, but I already have the oil out, so that's what I'm going to use. And then I'm just going to pour all of the batter into the prepared baking pan. If you want a thinner cake, if you want to make individual pastries, you can pour this in a half-sheet baking pan, and it'll bake much faster too, and you'll have a thinner layer of cake. And you can use that cake to make little trifles or little individual-sized pastries. It's up to you. This cake is going to be much thicker, but that's how I had it, and I think it's so much easier like that, just to kind of serve it straight out of the baking pan. And I always like to put a baking tray underneath. It makes it very easy to transport in and out of the oven. So my oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This is going to bake on the center rack. You don't need a convection fan for this, but it's going to bake on the center rack for about 30 minutes or until a toothpick that's inserted in the center comes out clean. Once it comes out of the oven, go ahead and poke it all around with a toothpick and pour the cooled syrup all over the top of the cake. Then you're going to set it aside and let it absorb the syrup for at least 30 or 40 minutes. You also want it to cool down to room temperature before you spread the pudding on top, which is going to be the next step. And I'll show you what it looks like as soon as we're ready. Okay, so now it's time to make the final component, which is the lemon whipped cream. So easy to make. The cake is ready. The pastry cream is ready. We're just going to make the whipped cream and put the whole thing all together. So in my mixing bowl, I'm going to add a cup of heavy whipping cream. You want to make sure that it's really cold, so straight out of the refrigerator. And then we're going to sweeten it with a 1/4 cup of confectioner sugar. And then lots and lots of lemon zest. That's where all of the flavor comes from, the lemoniness. Now, if you have lemon curd or if you make lemon curd at home, you can reduce the amount of the powdered sugar and just flavor this with the lemon curd. And then just add however much sugar it needs. Lemon curd tends to be super sweet, so you're not going to need that much. This is a big lemon, so about half of the lemon zest is what I like. My mixer is fitted with the whisk attachment, and I'm just going to whip this up until it turns into whipped cream. Okay, so the whipped cream is ready. I have a pastry bag here that's fitted with a big star attachment. I'll put the links in the blog post where you can get all these things if you don't already have them. I like to use these vinyl bags because they're washable and reusable, but you can use disposable bags if you want, or you can just dollop this on top if you want to. But I think the extra touch of putting it in the bag makes it more special. You make a nice little rosette. It just looks like you've worked a little bit harder on it and, you know, makes your guests feel more special. So just push the pastry cream down, not the pastry cream, the whipped cream down to the bottom. The cake is so springy and moist. It's exactly how you want it to be. The pastry cream is perfectly chilled. So a good thing to do right now, because the pastry cream has kind of hardened a bit, it's going to be hard to spread this over the cake. So I am just going to put this in my mixing bowl and just quickly whisk it up in the blender, in the mixer, not the blender. And I'm just going to spread the pastry cream over the top of the cake now that it's nice and smooth. Just takes a few seconds and the mixer is already being used. If you're using a hand blender, then you can just use the hand blender to whisk this up. If you're making the pastry cream and the cake and everything on the same day, the pastry cream just, once it gets to room temperature, it'll be good enough to spread on the cake, and that way it'll never harden. But when you refrigerate it, it does tend to thicken a little more and kind of clump up together. Then all you have to do is whip it up a little bit and it'll be spreadable. Oh my gosh. Vanilla pudding, custard, pastry cream, whatever you want to call it, has to be my favorite food. I mean, there's eggs in it, milk. I think it would qualify as a meal, no? Okay, there we go. If you want to get it more smooth, just use an offset spatula. If you decorate cakes, you probably already have one. If you don't worry about it. It'll be just fine. Then I'm just going to portion this into 12 portions as equal as I can get them. Do 4 on one side and 3 on the other. And now it's time for the garnish. So I'm just going to make little rosettes on top. Just like that. Perfect. Now, if you want to, you can thinly slice some lemon slices and just decorate the top of the decorate the top of the whipped cream rosettes with a little lemon wedge so your guests know what's in it. You can let this set a little bit, maybe for an hour or so, but I'm going to try and cut into it just so that way I could show you what it looks like. All right, it's in my plate. Time for it to get in my tummy. I'm going to get a little bit of the whipped cream. I have no words. This is actually better than the one that I had at the cafe. It's light, it's juicy, moist, lemony, delicious. All the flavors go together so well. If you want to add a little level of crunch to this, you can top it with some toasted sliced almonds or even some pistachios. Pistachios and lemons do go so well together. I really hope you guys give this a try. All the exact measurements, step-by-step directions, all of that is on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Make it, let me know what you guys think. And if you want to learn how to make some Greek coffee to go along with this, click over here and I'll see you right over there. Yes, us.